Hello, my fellow Americans. In today's video, we'll be talking about my policies and views, for that matter, on climate change. Now, some people call it global warming, and the big argument is, well, if it's global warming, how is it all so cold? I had that explained to me once that somehow the warming effect, melting the polar ice caps, actually cools it and stuff, but I feel just in general, for those who can't wrap their heads around that part of the science, let's just call it climate change for safe measure. The way we're not, hurting anybody's feelings, so to speak. But climate change, whether you believe it or not, is real. Science says it's real. I had a European tell me once the difference between Europeans and Americans is here when we talk about climate change, we don't say things like, I believe it's real or I don't believe it. They say, we just accept it. It's a fact. We follow the science. Whereas in America, even if you follow the science, you say, I believe it. Well, I believe it as far as America goes. I follow the facts. Science says that this is happening. We are doing great damage to our world. And we continue as a nation, especially, to just ignore the changes that we can make it towards not doing that damage. Changes that we can use renewable resources instead of fossil fuels. Now, I understand that if we get rid of certain industries, a lot of jobs disappear with those industries. But that's why we need to invest in finding ways that when we do get rid of those industries, we don't necessarily get rid of the jobs too. The job specifically gone, but have something equivalent as a replacement in the renewable fields. Now, like I said, I'm no scientist. Asking me things, you're going to get as much of an answer as you asking any random person on the street. It's an opinion when it comes from me. And that's why, as president, I would refer to experts on what they think we can do. I wouldn't just make rash decisions like shutting down a pipeline or giving millions of dollars to the oil industry. I would ask the experts, what do you advise? That's what advisors are for. The president might be a powerful person, but by no means is a president all-knowing. And in scenarios such as this and many others, as president, I would ask people who know more than me. I don't know everything. I won't even begin to try and claim I know everything. Because by all means, I know nothing when it comes to the great infiniteness of knowledge that is in this universe. But what I do know is that if I consult people who are experts in their field, they would be able to guide my hand as president and advise me and tell me what they think is a good move and a move that we as a nation should make. But since we're talking about my policies, my opinions, I do have to discuss what I know from what I have done research on. I know that fossil fuels are killing this world. We are destroying it, and the people making policies and decisions about this, they're not going to be around to see the repercussions of their actions. The average politician in the U.S., the average federal politician for that matter, is in their 70s. 70s. The average American, adult age American, 18 and above, the average adult American is in their 30s. The people making decisions for those of us that will inherit this world will be long gone before they have to face the consequences of their actions. My children, my children's children, will pay for the choices of people that will never suffer the consequences of the decisions they made. They just reap the benefits. They get the money, and that's sickening. Now, like I said, can we just do away with coal and oil and everything like that? Gone? No. Unfortunately, it's not the kind of thing that in a single day we can just get rid of the industry and have the replacement there. It is things that we will need to put steps into. We will need to have job security for the people that are losing their jobs. We will need to find ways so that when we get rid of these industries, we're not just displacing hundreds and thousands of Americans from well-paying, good jobs. As I said, though, we do need to get away from these industries. There are alternatives. Other countries in the world have begun exploring alternatives that we in America are just so stubborn not to explore because, quite frankly, a lot of Americans have bought into we can't make it without gas and coal. We can. There are alternatives. Nuclear power. France just put in a new nuclear power plant. Everybody's always so afraid of nuclear power. Look at Chernobyl. Scary. Yes, there is the potential of a nuclear meltdown. That can be a serious thing that destroys for hundreds and thousands of years and makes areas uninhabitable. But France just put in one with so many fail-safes that even if there is a potential meltdown, they really have nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, here in the United States, we have nuclear power plants that haven't been updated since the 1970s. Let's get to 2020. Let's get with the present. Let's get on board with renewable energy, safer energy, and we need to make changes. I don't want to leave a ruined world for my children and grandchildren. I don't want to leave an uninhabitable planet however many years down the road that may happen. I don't want to play any part in that. I want to leave a planet that is better than the one I've inherited. And I think we should all feel that way. Even if we don't have children, what is the point of living if you leave things worse than they were when you got them? Realistically, if we're going to get all philosophical here, what's the point of life in general if not to leave it better than it was? If not to make progress? If not to build for a brighter future? But circling back onto my actual points here, other forms of energy that we can get away from gas, coal, oil, hydrogen fuel cells. Now everybody hears hydrogen and they're like, but hydrogen's explosive. Look at the Hindenburg, for example. In the right quantities, anything can be explosive. Do a little research on that. There are explosions in things that you wouldn't even imagine. Dust particles in factories at the right combination, dust to air, can cause explosions. Gasoline that you drive in your cars now, in the right quantities, can be explosive. The same applies to hydrogen fuel cells. But the people making hydrogen fuel cells, they're not just Joe Schmo out in the woods going, I think this can be done. They have done their research. They are scientists. They know what they're doing. They have put the same amount of study into hydrogen fuel cells that somebody once put into gasoline. It is a safe alternative. It is a better alternative. It's non-polluting in comparison. Now, a lot of the argument I hear from people when it comes to renewable energy is, what about the damage to the environment that is done when building the things used for these renewable energy? Like the giant fan blades for wind power, the wind turbines. Yes, sometimes the processes have a lot of pollutant involved. And I am as much against that as I am the fossil fuels themselves. We need to find better ways to do that too. And there are better ways. But our country, the United States, has so stubbornly refused to invest in finding better ways. We have ourselves so convinced that there's no possible way to get away from gas and coal. Well, we need to end that mindset, and we need to get away from that for the future of everyone. This is not a me issue. This is not a now issue alone. This is a now and the future, and this needs addressed. And for years, people have been saying that it needs addressed. And we keep pushing it off and ignoring it and saying, well, we can't, but we can't, we need it. Oh, the jobs. No, like I said previously, we can't just get rid of it overnight. The damage that will cause is different. It's not environmental damage, but it would be economical damage. Displacing that many workers would be terrible in its own right. But we need to make the steps. We need to take those steps to get away from these power sources that are destroying the world. Because someday, if we keep taking it for granted, we're going to pay. Look around us now. In recent history, the types of storms we've been getting, they've been becoming more frequent. And they've been becoming more violent around the world. That is a sign of climate change. This needs addressed in our time. Or else there might not be a chance to address it in the future. And you can argue as much as you want that I'm wrong. But like I said, look at the facts. Look around you. Look at the science that says we are destroying our planet. We need to find ways to phase out these things. We need to get rid of fossil fuels. We need to make changes. And if it is unsafe to make these changes, we need to find ways to make it safe. Human beings are very resourceful. We are surely not so dumb that we are locked in on something that has right in the name how outdated it is. Fossil fuels. Fossil. It's right in the name. That's not where the name comes from by any means. We all know that fossil fuels are named because of how they formed thousands upon thousands of years ago. But in the modern era, the term dates itself. They're outdated. They're fossils. They're a relic of the past, and they need gotten rid of. We as a nation need to invest in finding a way to get away from them and build a brighter future for everyone. A safer, cleaner future. Now, there are a lot of topics around fossil fuels that I haven't touched on today. Things like fracking, pipelines. They are issues for another day, unfortunately, to keep the video shorter. But for the sake of it, real quick, I'll touch on fracking. Gone. Needs gone. Poisons the water. Terrible for people. Getting rid of jobs, I realize. Back to the same thing. We need to find replacement jobs. But it needs gone. Pipelines? Okay, we're not getting rid of these things overnight. If we're going to have oil for whatever amount of time we're stuck using oil until we get the replacements in place, pipelines are a more suitable thing for the most part. They're safe, they're clean, and it means we don't have trucks and trains hauling that oil back and forth, burning fossil fuels. So, pipelines are better. But that's just me touching on those issues. That's just me barely glancing on those issues. Please don't read into that as, well, did you hear what he said? That's his only policy on it. They will be touched in greater detail. The takeaway from today's video is fossil fuels need gone, but we can't just do it without having fail-safes, backups, having everything in place to make sure when we do get rid of them that thousands of people aren't just losing their jobs and having nowhere to turn. And that we're not just turning to another terrible thing for the environment because it's so horrible to produce the things for the renewable resources. We need to do our research, and we need to go about it a smart way. Thank you for your time, and I will see you next video.